Welcome to the first Best in Show of MLB The Show 23. My name is Kasami from Showzone, and apologies and thank you for your patience for waiting this long for Best in Show to arrive. We kind of wanted to see what Set 1 would bring with the new system where you don't have low diamonds to begin the year and you just have 99s right away. So now that we kind of have Set 1 out of the way, we know what to expect going forward for future sets, and we will have some more Best in Show updates throughout each set, such as the midway point of the set season. And that way we'll be able to let you guys know what some of the best cards are on the market and maybe what to expect leading up to the end of the current set. We also expect some of the card series to change throughout the season, so you have your traditional like veteran, breakout, all-star game type of cards, but there will be some special series going forward. In set 1 we had the World Baseball Classic and the Charisma series. Obviously the World Baseball Classic is something that was before the baseball season, so it won't be able to continue on all year. So we'll have some other series that will be replacing those as we make our way into the 2023 baseball season. With that, I also want to preface that captains have also been a huge point of MLB The Show 23. Some of our rankings may be affected by captains and their boosts, but these meta and true overall rankings that you'll be seeing here in a moment are without the captain's boost, since it is really kind of hard to keep track of. So keep that in mind. There may be some captains that may lead to some bigger boosts. The biggest one that I've seen of the bunch is Trevor Hoffman with relief and closing pitchers for set 1. So while he's not mentioned in this video, you might be able to get some different team builds that may be more successful for you personally by using some of these captain builds. Meta and true overall are fairly close this season as well, so you're going to see a lot of the same players in set 1. We'll start off with the meta overall squad, and at the catcher position we have a couple of great options, the first of which is World Baseball Classic JT Realmuto. One of the best cards for contact power and speed that you'll get at a catcher position. His backup, Pudge Rodriguez, also has some decent speed, a lot of power, but JT Realmuto, one of the more well-rounded catchers in the game. You'll get a lot of everything, including contact power and speed. First base, there's also a ton of options. We have Babe Ruth as the best first baseman. We know that his defense may not necessarily be the best, but he will give you the best contact power and clutch available. Along with Munetaka Murakami, we have him in the DH spot or on the bench, but you can kind of swap those two out depending on your defensive preference. A lot of first basemen that are also on the precipice of being on the team, and we'll go over those in a minute. In the infield, we have our best card in the game currently, which is Finest Chipper Jones. I believe that's one of the cards that everybody's been kind of trying to go for in the Set 1 collection. He and Ruth tend to be the most popular choices. Trey Turner is our best second baseman in the game. Been seeing a lot of people plugging him in at shortstop as well as center field. He has a center field secondary position, but we feel that based on the current second baseman in the game, Trey Turner will be the best option for set 1. Derek Jeter's collection reward at shortstop, and Fernando Tatis, the chase reward, again one of those cards that you could plug in anywhere. We feel like he's best in the outfield, so we have Tatis at left field, Sosa in right field with his speed, fielding, and arm combination, and the Charisma Ken Griffey Jr. in center field. On the bench, some other great options, well-rounded options I will also mention. So Murakami, again, can play first base, third base, DH, wherever you want to plug him in. Mike Trout, a great outfield option to put anywhere as well. Pudge, we touched on, as the second best catcher in the game. Beyond that, there's a few options depending on how you want to build your team, so we kind of went with the most well-rounded team with Dave Parker and Ralph Kiner. A lot more power tends to be the meta, so those two are the two best bench options. But again, going to the first out, there's a lot of first baseman options. So Ryan Howard, Mark McGwire collection reward, Lou Gehrig, Jeff Bagwell, Willie McCovey. Those 5 first basemen are all in like the top 5 or 6 for meta overall that aren't defined by the starting lineup. So if you find that there's a first baseman that really works well for you, I know a lot of people personally like Lou Gehrig's swing. You can definitely plug him in anywhere in this lineup, along with Babe Ruth, I would say. Murakami just has a little bit more of that defensive capability, being able to play first base or third base. And then the first out for the other positions that aren't first base, Chris Bryant can play shortstop, third base, and I believe has an outfield secondary. He is a 104.07 meta overall. Jorge Posada is another great catcher option, a good switch hitter. So if you prefer having that switch hitting ability, I know a lot of you used Posada last year and had some success with him. And outfield, Justice is technically better than Trout. He just doesn't have the speed capabilities that some of the other outfielders that are on the starting lineup show, but a lot of people also rake with David Justice. They did last April. This year's David Justice card in April and May is even better than last year's, so if you continue to swing well with him, another great outfield option to have. Now we move on to starting pitchers, where things really just get a little bit slim in terms of options. There hasn't really been that huge dominant starting pitcher aside from Bob Gibson. A lot of people have been kind of disappointed by the Pedro Martinez card, and you'll see here his meta overall score, while it's over 100, is considerably less than Bob Gibson, who's one of the boss packs, or is in one of the boss packs. So like Pedro, you have to make this like set collection. You'd have to pick him over Chipper Jones and Babe Ruth, and we just don't feel like he gives you the best value for that. Bob Gibson's going to be your best option at starting pitcher, followed by Walter Johnson, Roki Sasaki, and the new Charisma Lance Lynn. That was a bit of a surprise for me. He is the 5th best starter in the game currently for set 1. Now I do want to preface World Baseball Classics, Shohei Ohtani has 2 great cards, both the starting pitcher and the closing pitcher. You can use whichever one that you'd like. Shohei Ohtani's starting pitcher card is actually the 3rd best starting pitcher in the game. We just feel like he might give you a bit more value with that closer card, but if you prefer the starting pitcher, like I said, he is the 3rd best meta overall starting pitcher in the game. Some other options for the first out are Bob Feller's finest card, World Baseball Classic Adam Wainwright, and the All-Star Game Juan Marichal. A lot of last year's cycle to start off the year was dominated by great starting pitching, namely Randy Johnson, so we haven't seen Randy Johnson yet. I'm assuming we'll see him pretty soon. They just didn't want him to like dominate the entire game cycle like he did last year. But yeah, a lot more hitting focused, I think, set 1 was. There haven't been like too many pitchers that I feel like people have been carving up their opposition with. Bob Gibson tends to be the best of those. Pedro Martinez, I just honestly haven't heard too much about this season, and that might just be indicative of how weak he might be compared to like other versions of his cards. So set 2 might have a lot more pitchers since you aren't going to be able to combine set 2 and set 1. Maybe they didn't want to like overload you with too many pitching cards in set 1 because you'll have so much value that you could also get in set 2. And moving on to the bullpen, there are a lot of good bullpen arms. The best of the best is the Eric Gagne card that you get as a part of the ranked program, a 102.23. Some other familiar names, Edwin Diaz, Billy Wagner, another Shohei Ohtani card, Josh Hader's Tops Now card. We don't see too many Tops Now cards, flashbacks or current season, that make the meta overall squad, so that was kind of a surprise to see. Monthly awards, Jose Alvarado just snuck in there, another great lefty option. So you have Alvarado, Hader, and Wagner to use as lefties, a lot of good lefty values. Devin Williams was one of our top meta scorers last year. This year he only has 3 pitches, and I feel like he hasn't been as effective as other years. So he is at the bottom of the bullpen, still good enough to crack the bullpen. There's also Charisma Series Rob Nen. Starts to drop off though. We have World Baseball Classic Camilo Doval and Brian Wilson's Charisma Series. From there it kind of falls into the 80s. So captain card, one of our first captain cards that you'll see at the higher swing of things is Daniel Bard's card. He's an 88.97. Tyler Matzek, another lefty option, as well as Gregory Soto's All-Star Game card. Soto's walks per 9 in control does have some issues though, but if you need more lefty options, there's a few other good ones to have. So I would say set 1 has been defined by a lot of just like well-rounded hitting cards. From top to bottom, there aren't really too many positions that I would say are very weak compared to others. Probably second base is the weakest, but again, that one doesn't have too much defensive value, so you could really plug anybody in there. Trey Turner is the best meta overall person to put at second base. Pitching is definitely harder to find better value for. There are a few good options from set 1, but again, I do expect a lot more of set 2 to kind of have more of that dominant starting pitcher ability. There's only some minor changes to the true overall squad, so I'm not going to gloss over the entire roster too much. Just the main changes are true overall really looks at speed a lot heavier, especially for outfielder positions like center field. So Julio Rodriguez's World Baseball Classic card and the Charisma Series Ricky Henderson would kind of factor in as bench options according to the true overall scores in place of some players like Dave Parker, because the game developers believe that speed gets you more value in some of those positions like center field to flag down more balls in the alley. So really that's about it. There's just a few players that have kind of moved positions, or those first out that I mentioned for the meta overall squad, a few of those players kind of mixed around with the starting lineup. So again, nothing too monumental or different between those two squads for set 1. Same with the pitchers and bullpens. You have some players that got moved around, but again, not too many changes. Bob Gibson is still going to be a top 5 pitcher. The game really likes Lance Lynn for whatever reason too, so that Charisma Series card of Lance Lynn is going to be a top 5 card for both meta and true overall. The 2 cards that I thought were kind of curious cases were Lee Smith. The meta overall metric just does not like him very much at all. Rates him as like a 78 something. But true overall, Lee Smith is up there. He throws hard. I know a lot of people have been using him in like co-op mode and everything, but just that 3 or 4 pitch mix is a struggle sometimes. And once your opponents kind of figure out what you're using between like a fastball and a forkball, it's a lot easier to pick up on Lee Smith as the season progresses. The other one was Gunnar Henderson, who is one of the ranked season rewards. Just his value compared to Lou Gehrig and Eric Gagne is a lot lower. So he is still a good meta overall player. If you like using Gunnar Henderson, he's a good option to have at shortstop or second base. But true overall doesn't really like him that much either. I feel like for some of the ranked programs and like set rewards, there were some players that were like much easier choices than others. So Bob Gibson for the Boss Pack, Babe Ruth and Chipper Jones for the set collection rewards. For the World Series ranked rewards or just the ranked program, Eric Gagne and Lou Gehrig are probably your 2 best picks. I would pick Eric Gagne first just because bullpens are harder to find some good arms for, and he's the top rated meta overall for relief and closing pitchers. Lou Gehrig, there's a slew of first basemen that also are about the same ability as Lou Gehrig. I just know a lot of people like his swing, so that kind of leaves Gunnar Henderson behind for that ranked program. But that's about it for now. Set 2 will be coming out in a few days at the time of this video. What do you guys think about set 1? Do you agree with the meta and true overall scores? Are there any other players that you would potentially add to this lineup that we might have missed or you find some better value in? Let us know in the comment section. Again, going forward for set 2, we are going to have a few more update videos for Best in Show. We just wanted to feel things out with the new format from San Diego Studio, just to kind of see what they were doing with all these 99s at launch, some of the new card series. So now that we kind of know what to expect, we will have a bit more of an update going forward. Thank you again for watching. If you'd like to build some teams of your own using the true or meta overall functions, or if you'd like to make some team builds using the captains feature, you can do so over at showzone.gg. And if you create an account, you can actually save some of these lineups for later. So if you wanted to go back and do a set 1 grind, or just kind of keep some other team options available, more than just the 4 or 5 that the game keeps at a time in the system, you can do so by using our website. But signing off for now, this is Kasabi from Showzone. Best of luck using the cards from set 2. We'll see you soon.